Advanced Communicator Gold Award under the Legacy Program. He has found it interesting and challenging trying to modify the material of this workshop for the Zoom environment. His fingers are crossed that it all works to benefit of participants in their pursuit of understanding leadership. Please help me welcome Stephen Donahue. Stephen.
Thank you, Ksenia, and welcome everybody here, Igniters and all our wonderful guests. What I'd like to do, I see a few people still kind of signing in, so I'll just wait a minute on that. Marvin's our Zoom master tonight, and chat monitors, as Ksenia mentioned, Glenn Brown, there he is. Glenn's working in the background. He's my standby backup in case I get kicked off the system or any of that sort of minor stuff happens. What I thought would be nice to do is, because we have so many guests, is just to have a quick sort of roundtable introduction where you say your name. And we were also curious about how you found out about the meeting. Obviously, if you're a member, you were aware that it was happening, but if you're from outside the club, how did you find out? Online, Meetup, D42 website, and a benefit to our moderators later, did you have time to look at the videos before the meeting tonight? As you may be aware, the workbook came with some videos that gave sort of the long form PowerPoint preamble to our leadership style and leadership match questions. If I can, I'll key the people as I see them on my mosaic, and they can, again, your name. If you're Igniters and you have a role at Igniters, I guess you can say that as well, say what your leadership role is. And if you're outside the club, just quickly how you found out about the meeting. And I guess Igniters or not Igniters, did you do the workbook? I'll start with Yvonne first. I can't hear you, Yvonne.
I'm trying to be quiet in a mouse. My name's Yvonne Harima. I'm past president this year. I'm incoming president for next year. Yes, I did watch the videos, and yes, I did complete the worksheets tonight. And I found them quite interesting, just so they defined who you were as a leader more carefully. Thank you. Stephen, now you're muted. Stephen?
Yeah, I muted myself too. Yeah. Next up, Jay.
Yes, I am on mute. Thank you, Mr. Presenter, and most welcome guests and fellow Igniters. My name is Jay Kumar. Tonight, I'll be your moderator number 2. Yes, I was an active member of Igniters, and I am more active member of Igniters this year. Over to presenter.
Thank you, Jay. Tracy.
Hi, Stephen, fellow Igniters. My name's Tracy. I did do the workbook. I am an Igniter, and I am the incoming secretary. Thank you.
We'll go next to Ksenia.
Thank you, Stephen. My name is Ksenia. I'm the current president of Igniters. I too watched the videos and completed the workbook, and I'm excited for this evening to hear all the discussions and learn a little bit more about leadership gaps and how we can bridge those gaps. Back to you.
Grace, you're the next person on my mosaic.
Hello, everybody. My name is Grace Wang. I am the incoming VP membership. I found this class in this training from a D42 website. And to be honest, I pre-read the materials and also pre-watched the video, but I cannot promise I understand everything. So hopefully you can get something new from today. Thank you.
And we have Nandini and Marvin, whoever wants to go first.
I am Nandini. I'm the VP of PR. I am from Igniters, and I've watched the videos and done the homework, and I'm looking forward to finding out more about leadership. And thanks everybody for coming.
Hi, I'm Marvin. I'm an incoming president for next year, and I've seen the videos and done the workbook. I'm looking forward to speaking tonight and getting involved in the workshop.
And Marion Dermott, whoever would like to go first there.
Ladies first.
My name is Mary Byrne, and I have watched the videos and I have done the 2 exercises. And like Grace, I'm not sure, it's a little hazy. I'm not sure how well it works, but I was surprised a little at my leadership style. Thank you.
My name is Dermot. I'm a Sergeant at Arms for Igniters. I did watch the videos. I didn't do the worksheet. I started it. It got way over my head. I'm not a detailed leadership type person, so even though Mary encouraged me and more than encouraged, I still didn't finish the worksheets.
Grant, you're next.
Mr. Toastmaster, I'm Grant Hanna. I'm a member of Chinook Club in Twin Rivers at 3,500 foot. I'm a frequent visitor to Igniters from time to time. I was scrolling through the district website, event website, and noticed your opportunity. I reviewed the workbook and plotted most of the information on their charts. I'm looking forward to the meeting. Thank you for the invitation.
Shelley.
Hi, everyone. My name's Shelley Musfelt. I am not an Igniter member. I am a member of MVP Advanced Toastmasters. I saw your invite on the District 42 calendar. I'm very interested in leadership. Unfortunately, I'm probably one of the people that I didn't watch the videos or the workbook due to work commitments, but I'm very excited to hear your team's leadership ideas. And thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Shelley. Glenn.
Hi, everyone. I'm Glenn Brown, the outgoing treasurer for Igniters. And I did watch the videos and I did the homework, and I'm the man that you pay if you would like to join Igniters.
Marion.
Hi, everyone. I am the outgoing secretary for Igniters. I did watch and do homework partially and found it very interesting, so I'm looking forward to the workshop tonight.
Antoinette.
Good evening. I'm not a part of Igniters. I'm part of WPTM Communicators. I saw the information on the D42 newsletter that came out, and I thought it would be interesting. I have reviewed the information, but I'm looking forward to hearing a little bit more about it. Thanks.
And Daisy.
Hello, everyone. My name is Daisy. I am from Refine the Speaker. Our club is in downtown, and same as everyone. We meet on Zoom now every week. I found this event on District 42 website. Even though I completed my leadership program last year, today when I review all the material, I think I understand the leadership more in depth. So today I'm looking forward to learn more. Thank you.
Drew.
Hi, I'm Drew. I'm the incoming treasurer with Igniters. Did the homework and looking forward to expanding on it tonight.
Great. Vicky?
Thank you, Stephen. Welcome guests and fellow Igniters. My name is Vicky Huynh. I am the outgoing VP of Education. I did the homework, watched the videos, and looking forward to see who else share the same leadership style and see what other leadership styles that our members and guests also have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mona.
I finally got on here. I had to find the link. There's been quite a technical world. Anyway, I'm Mona Cooley. I'm the program coordinator mentor coordinator for Igniters. And I did the homework. I didn't watch the videos, but I did do the homework and reviewed all the steps and everything else. So looking forward to tonight. And I'm going to be a moderator tonight.
Diane.
Good evening, fellow Igniters and our friends. My name is Diane Fox. I'm the outgoing Igniters VP membership. I am looking forward, Stephen, to finding out what I do about the discrepancy between my leadership style and the leadership needs of the team. I can't wait. Thank you.
Lorenzo.
Thank you, Stephen. Hi, everyone, and welcome, fellow guests. I'm Lorenzo. I'm one of the newer members of the Igniters Club. I did do my homework tonight, and I'm looking forward to our discussion towards different leadership style and understanding which leadership styles exist within our group. Thank you.
Kat.
Thank you, Stephen. Good evening, everyone, and welcome guests. My name is Kat, and I am the incoming VP Public Relations, working closely with Nandini. And I reviewed all the material, and I did watch the videos and learned some new things that I didn't know about myself and took some time to reflect. So looking forward to learning more about everyone else's. Thanks a lot.
Trevor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. I also did my video homework, and I did actually do my modeling, and I'm going to have to agree with what I heard. There seems to be some discrepancies. So obviously the world has to mold to me, so I'm looking forward to learning how to do that tonight, Stephen.
Casey.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me. I am Casey Etcham. I am not a part of Igniters or any Toastmasters as of yet. I'm quite new. I came across this district via Facebook's algorithms, but it's something that has been on my want in terms of my own public speaking for quite some time. So it was great timing, really. And I did do my homework, and I did do my reading, and I watched the videos as well. Thank you.
Super. Thanks, Casey. Jessica.
Good evening. My name is Jessica. I'm a new member for the Igniters, and I'm really excited about learning more in regards to leaderships. I have gone through the tasks, and I do look forward to elaborating on it more. Reason being, I don't know what can be added. I don't know what can be improved. So it's quite interesting for me as for getting to know exactly what leadership is the best or how I can work with my results. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. And Lemlin.
Hello, Igniters. My name is Lemlem. I am a part of the High Riser Toastmaster. I recently joined them, and I found this program through D42 website event calendar. And unfortunately, I couldn't watch the YouTube videos and the resources, but I look forward to learn from every one of you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Lemlin. I believe I've captured everybody that's on my screen. I don't think I've missed anybody. Thank you all. Give you all yourselves a big applause for showing up tonight, and hopefully explain a little bit of this. For the benefit of those that didn't get to watch the videos, and I did the video so I wouldn't have to do 40 minutes of PowerPoint for the meeting. I'm going to do a short summary of what was on the videos, just to kind of refresh everybody. Anybody that didn't get a chance to look at them won't get totally excluded. I'm not a big screen share person. I'm probably the oldest character here at Igniters, so forgive me if it seems a little awkward at times. We're not supposed to apologize. That's just an explanation. Okay, I'll go through the first part, which was we're talking about leadership as a, what are the, part one is the characteristics of effective leaderships. The first characteristic, or why do you want to be an effective leader, is leadership is the capacity to influence others to achieve worthwhile results. And what are some of the qualities, personality qualities leaders have? They're emotionally mature, which means they're comfortable with themselves and accept their own faults and abilities. They are predictable and dependable. They are independent. Leaders are free thinkers. They're not afraid to disagree with the majority. They question or are willing to change policies and procedures. They're strong-willed, which means leaders are determined. They will overcome all obstacles to achieve their goals. They're courageous. Leaders are willing to take risks and are not afraid to fail. They're also ambitious, which means leaders have strong desires to achieve and they are willing to work longer and harder to do so. They're resilient. Leaders continue to perform despite delays, disappointments, distractions, or failures. They're also charismatic. Leaders capture the popular imagination. They inspire. So all these qualities sometimes come together in a leader, or leaders may have various elements of those within their makeup. Leaders also have mental qualities. They are quick. Leaders think rapidly. They can analyze situations and alter plans accordingly. They are knowledgeable. Leaders know their organization, its practices, and its culture. They are good judges. Leaders form opinions and make decisions objectively and wisely. Their opinions and decisions reflect the goals of the organization and society in general. They are foreseeing. Leaders look ahead, predict what will happen, and plan for it. Leaders also have value systems. Good values. Values are our beliefs and principles by which we live. Our values shape our personality, attitudes, and style of leadership. Values are positive and constructive. Leadership style. Great leaders may be very different in their approaches. They do not lead people in the same way. The difference in leadership behavior is called style. Leadership style is a consistent and distinctive pattern of behavior on the part of a person acting in a leadership role. Your leadership role or pattern is an expression of your personal orientation to several key aspects of leadership. It reflects how you think, how you influence others. It guides how you act from day to day, and it reflects how you employ structure. And I think when we get into our discussion of leadership style, you'll find out that different people approach things in different ways. And in the videos, they explored a lot of different leadership styles. I won't go into that here. If you're curious about it, it is in the videos. One thing they did come across, though, is when you're looking at your strengths and your weaknesses, is there a possibility that your strength might also be your weakness? How you view things in a certain way in certain situations might not really serve to draw everybody else along with your opinion. So every leader is entitled to his or her own leadership style. Each of us has certain strengths that we have learned to use for our own benefit and for the benefit of others. But one's own strength can sometimes become a liability. Psychologists refer to the principle known as the strength-weakness irony. This means that one strength, such as a particular attitude or skill, when taken to an extreme, can actually become a weakness. So when we're looking at leadership style, we're trying to understand what our strengths are. The simple graph that they provide gives some indication that leadership is a really complicated topic. And this program is not going to cover all the potential aspects, but it gives you kind of a simple hint and indication of where some of your preferences might be. And encourages you to maybe think about changing your leadership style if the situation demands something different. And the larger question the program asks is, can leadership style be learned, and can leadership style be changed? And we employ what they call a four-dimensional model of leadership style. When we look at it, it has two axes on it.
Stephen, you lost your screen if you still want to see it.
Yes, sir. Sorry. So the graph shows two axes, one reflection and action, going arguably north and south. East, west is structure and influence. So as I explained, it's a fairly simple model. And I used a quote from Einstein to indicate that a simple model is not a problem. A model should be as simple as it can be, but no simpler. So hopefully the confusion anybody's had with the modeling can be overcome as we talk about it a little bit more. So for reflection, leaders vary in the extent to which they evaluate the situation and challenges facing the enterprise. Influence, leaders vary in how much they work with and through the talents of the team members. Leaders don't simply issue orders, they mobilize the skills, experience, viewpoints, and energies of the team. With action, leaders vary in how they tell people what to do. Leaders can be highly directive or highly permissive. They can directly channel the team's activities to allow the team to act intelligently on its own, and with structure, depending on the size and complexity of the enterprise involved, leaders vary in how they create structures for aligning responsibilities. So that's the basic overview. As I said, the videos went into a lot longer detail, providing examples of the fix-it leader, the bullying leader, the bureaucratic leader, and then came down to here where this chart attempts to show you what your preferred style is. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to Jay. Jay, who's a a real thinking man. He always thinks about ideas. I always appreciate his input at Igniters meetings because he's always challenging us in how we think. And I'm going to let him lead the discussion on leadership style. I think he has a couple of people picked out that he's going to ask some questions to, and then he's going to have a general provision for discussion. I think Jay is one of those structure people because he wanted to have a timer for his section to make sure that the people he asked questions to spoke in the correct length of time. And Vicky is going to serve in the background as the timer. He's given her all the timing requirements. And right now, I'll turn it over to Jay.
Stephen, that Mona's going first.
Yes, that's what I was about to say.
Oh, okay. Yes. Good. Good. Yeah, I appreciate that leadership.
Yes.
Leadership style is going to be Mona.
That is
all
the
things I said
flexibility
about
of the
Jay.
leadership.
Quiet and see what would happen because I can flex at any moment if you have to.
Yeah, I lost that opportunity to imply that flexibility in leadership. You have it in Igniters. Come on, Mona, go ahead. Shoot.
Just a brief introduction for Mona. She's our mentoring champion here at Igniters along with Nandini. She works in making sure everybody gets the help they need if there's some gap in their leadership style or speaking needs. She's the person that looks after all that. Everything I said about Jay doesn't apply to Mona. She's different. I'll let her explain what she is and let her lead the discussion on leadership style. Mona, over to you.
How much time do we have for this section, Stephen?
You have 20 minutes, and I guess
Oh,
Vicky could
good.
tell
And
you.
Vicky, you're going to time anyway? You can time?
Yes, yes.
Okay, that'd be great. Okay, just to keep me on track, because you know I can have fun with this stuff. I'm looking forward to this time to moderate this part of it, the leadership style. And, you know, just for some of you to know, I've had the experience when I started in Toastmasters, did not know that leadership would be something that I would really love to do. And it started out being the president of the club of the first year I was in, and then all the way up to district director. I never dreamt that that's how far I would go, but that's how much I love leadership. So this is very timely to discuss this. I'm going to be asking questions, and we've got some guests, and I know some of these guests as well. But I want to know is the ones that did do a profile, and if you could just come on and speak. If you don't, I will pick you out. I've got your name, so don't worry. So if you could, what I'd like to know first of all is when you did your profile, what did you see? Did you see any difference of what you felt it would be rather than what it showed? And I was wondering if there's anybody that would like to speak to that before I appoint. Don't everybody jump at once. So,
Mona.
Okay, Ksenia? Good.
Yes, thank you, Mona. No surprises here for me when I did my profile. I am very high on reflection and structure and weaker in the influence and action sides. I like to consider all the options and think and think and think before I make a decision. And then also I'm a very process-oriented person. I like to follow a certain process to get to a result. These are all great to have when there's lots of time to do something or to make that decision. Becomes a challenge when your team or when a decision needs to be quick. And also if I don't have expertise to accomplish something and need to connect with others to do so. So just, I don't know if you need me to elaborate, but in a nutshell, that's kind of my style.
And I'm going to just ask a question to you, and it may come to the others, is you became a leader in our club and being president. How did this experience of being a leader, how did that change your leadership style, or did it?
It did slightly force me to work on some of those weaker areas. And I was blessed to have a fantastic executive, some great experienced Toastmasters and very ambitious newer Toastmasters. The part of the area that really forced me to work on is my delegation skills. I really like to do everything myself, and I had to learn to let go of that control and let others grow and help me in what I need to do. And some have skills that are better than mine in certain areas, can do it faster and better. And so I'm glad to see that I've been able to flex a little bit in that direction, and of course, still a work in progress.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
That how taking on these leadership roles show you a bit about you, of where, yes, you have your strength, but there's areas that can improve, and that could become your strongest. You never know. The area that maybe you didn't feel as strong may become your strength in time. So now, anybody else would like to speak before I go to something else here? Anybody else want to share? Oh, Kat, go ahead.
Thank you, Mona. I too was a little bit surprised going through the checklist and answering the questions. I expected myself to be more on the structure and reflection side. And I found myself to be more on the influence and action side.
Look at that.
It's interesting because I feel like I'm always challenging my boss to have more structure and reflection. And I see myself as very different from him. And here I am. So I thought that was an interesting insight to come to.
So how is this going? I know that you've stepped up to be a leader this year in our club. What do you think how this is going to benefit you going forward?
I think it will allow me to know what place I'm coming from in approaching some of the actions and, more importantly, decisions I take. And also, I think it also, speaking to it, gives the incoming leadership an opportunity to know how I make decisions and interact.
That's very good. That's very good. I think there's one more in from our club, but I'm going to pick on a guest unless a guest just steps up. Mary, I saw your hand up.
Yep. Okay, Mona. My name is Mary Byrne. What I was quite surprised is that my good points are reflection and influence. And I was quite surprised at that because I like to plan things well in advance. I feel more comfortable when I know exactly what's going to happen and how things should be. But that I would influence, so which really means that I try to work through others, which when I really think about it and reflect on it is probably me to a T, but I didn't understand that. I don't like to put myself out front, but I like to see people do well, and I like to work through them. I like to give ideas and so forth and see somebody else do them, and I feel very accomplished then. I can appreciate them more. So the only thing is structure and action would be my weaker points. So, and that surprises me. I thought I would be more action because I like to see things completed, but obviously I like to see them completed by somebody else. So I probably need to work on that.
So how will you go forward knowing this new, found something new that you weren't expecting, Mary? So what will you do with this knowledge now of going forward of what you found out about yourself?
Well, I see that I need to put myself forward more and do the things I believe in and not keep trying to influence and bring other people onto my side so they will do them for me.
Oh, we'll all remember that now at Ignite.
Yes, I know you will. That's why I'm putting it forward.
Okay. So we have some guests amongst us. Is there any of the guests would like to speak up if you did this profile and share your experience of what you found out about yourself? Yes, Grace.
Thank you, Mona. I'm a guest. So before I answer my question, I have a first question. When we're doing the profile, which kind of experience you're based on? Is it Toastmaster experience or your work experience or other
It could be a bit of both. It could be a bit of both. It can be sometimes we're in our careers, we're doing leadership roles. And then in Toastmasters, you might be taking on Toastmasters roles. So it doesn't matter. Leadership is leadership. So
Okay.
if you base it on a career rather than Toastmasters, that doesn't matter.
Thank you. I think I just did the profile based on my work experience.
Okay.
So I actually a little surprised. I was thinking myself as an action person. I would say my structure is very weak, and I was thinking reflection is also weak. But when I did the profile, it's pretty equal. That surprised me. So I think one of the reasons is because I joined Toastmasters. Toastmasters gave me a lot of confidence, and also I learned a lot from the Toastmaster experience that I apply from Toastmaster to my work life. That makes it so balanced right now. And compared with my leadership style, with my team needs, it's not exactly the same, but it's not too far apart. So that's I'm quite happy with.
Right.
Thank you.
So Grace, you're with a club there in Toastmasters then, eh?
Twin Towers, yes.
Twin Towers. So how long have you been at Toastmasters?
About 6 years.
Okay. So you found something out about yourself. I'm going to ask you the same question. What are you going to do with this newfound knowledge?
I will still keep working on it, but I can see myself. I'm still a little lack of the structure wise, so I can improve more on that area. And for the area I have already improved, I want to continue to emphasize that and keep working and make it stable to the stable stage on that one.
Awesome. So it's great that Toastmasters has already made a benefit to you in your leadership through that whole process as well. So do we have another guest that wants to speak up before I maybe pick on somebody?
Mona, I just want to add something on
okay.
The reason
Shelley?
I wanted to attend this event was I think everyone can share that COVID has thrown us for a loop with leadership. So I think any new skills, I've been out of my office for almost 5 months now. So everything I do is on screen or the phone, or email. It's very different. So I'm finding that even though I might have leadership skills face to face, an electronic leader is much different than a face-to-face leader. So I just wanted to send that in, that continuous learning that we do in Toastmasters is so, so important, and more important in the working world.
Right. So Shelley, thank you for sharing that apart, because we all had to make some change and shifts and everything else. Do you feel that through the process, like the change in leadership on your part or your skill sets maybe shifted because of this COVID?
It definitely shifted. Our main director retired during COVID a week ago, and she's being replaced by 3 people trying to share her job. So our normal work environment is in a loop, and we're all distanced, and a lot of people are feeling a bit anxious being distanced from people. So I think this is the time when we really need the strong leadership.
Okay. Thank you for sharing, Shelley. Is there any other guests that would like to share their experience?
Casey wants to speak.
Tracy?
Casey.
Okay. Oh, Stacy. Okay.
Casey with a K.
Casey. Jeepers. I'll get it right yet. So Casey, go ahead.
So I noticed that my test scores were structure and reflection were my high 2, and then my low 2 were influence and action, with action being the lowest. I found that really interesting because I don't think that, I feel like I kind of push against structure. As much as I like a little bit of it, I like the ability to be able to flow with the changing needs a lot. That's really interesting. What I think I'll do with that is I think I'll just be more present and aware with when things come up throughout my workday and I'm noticing that push-pull with the structure and reflection, and or vice versa with the action and influence.
Okay. As now that you know something about yourself in a different way and everything, how do you feel you want to keep going forward, enhance this, or, you know, even add to what you're doing?
To enhance it,
Mm-hmm.
I think just being the awareness and being present with my leadership style so that I can continue to develop it and grow it. Yeah, I'm diagnosed at a late age with ADHD, so that structure is really, I find it really interesting that it's something that I struggle with is also my strong point.
Strong area. Yeah. And thank you for sharing that, because sometimes ourselves personally, there's certain things that we do need in our lives that is going to make the difference, and it's there for you, and you know that, so that is excellent. Now, you know, anybody that's first joined Toastmasters, like there's Nandini and Yvonne, they joined Toastmasters, and do you think how your leadership style has improved, changed over the years since you started?
I think for me, Mona, my awareness as a leader has changed, and I do things differently now because I know what my weaknesses tend to be. And so I found that I'm surrounding myself more with leaders who are really good at those skill sets. And I'll give you an example. I'm not usually the fastest one out of the gate. And when action is required, I'm not always the first one to jump. But I surround myself. There's you, there's Marvin, there's other people in my life who, when you say go, they are like, okay, let's go. And so I know that if you'll start the momentum, that's when I have a little bit of extra time, and then I can get going. And I can do the things I need to do. I feel comfortable. It's just that initial momentum. So I think what's changed for me is I feel more confidence because I have better teammates around who can help support me as a leader.
And it's interesting you say that, Nandini, because, you know, as much as I can be that action-orientated person, as you mentioned, but, you know, there is that place of where a bit of structure and thinking is needed. Sometimes I jump too quick to the action rather than think things through. And then there's maybe some backlash that I get because of that process. So sometimes to have thinkers or somebody in yours on the other side of the balance you out can make a huge difference. So that's to keep in mind to you as leaders, is sometimes you need that person. Is you're one thing, but you need that balancing act over here to do the detailed work. Shelley knows me quite well. She knows how much detail I need to have and all of that stuff. And so does so does Nandini. But these are things to be aware of, that you can find other people to balance you out, but learn from them and strengthen that area. Is there anybody else? I think we got, what, 5 minutes, Vicki?
Right now we are at 16:21.
Okay, so we're doing pretty good. Is there another guest that would like to share their experiences before we go on? Boy, thank you for those that are sharing. So now I want to see what is one thing, and somebody different speak up, one thing that your strength is, and how that strength can possibly improve the area that you need to work on. Would anybody like to speak to that?
I'll say something.
Okay. Go, Yvonne.
The one thing that I've learned from being in leadership positions as in president in Toastmasters is there's a vast difference between leadership skills and being bossy. I grew up being very bossy. I sort of was the one that ruled the roost and told everyone what to do. A good leader doesn't tell people what to do. They discover the strengths in the people that they're working with, and they learn how to build the strengths up in those people and bring them out so that together you can make the organization function better for whatever you're doing. But bossing people around doesn't really function as a leader. I don't think I ever did that, did I? I think that you encourage the people, you help them to get what the team is trying to accomplish. And I think it's important to realize that as a leader, that your leader is to guide people, help them, and get them to encourage them to work together as a team.
Okay.
That's all.
I have one more question, and I think it'll finish it off. Was there an area in your leadership style that was not your strongest, but became your strongest because you did leadership projects? Anybody like to speak to that? Okay, anybody? I will speak to it then. Oh, Kat, you have? Go ahead.
I would say it's an area of development, so ongoing, but active listening.
Okay.
And asking better questions.
Okay. So that's an area that you want to strengthen then.
And it's an area that I have developed as a result of leadership roles that I have taken so far.
Okay.
And I know I have a lot of work left to do in that area.
Okay. But that's an area that came stronger in the end. So that's interesting. I will share a quick little story of myself, and then I'm going to turn it back to our lovely leader of doing this project. Is actually my communication was not my strongest suit. And growing up, that's where my problem was, and even raising my family at times. And it was coming into Toastmasters, being in leadership, is where my communication improved better. And how do you, I'm good at delegating. That's one thing. A lot of my people that know me around me, I'm a good delegator. But my communication style was not the strongest, and it became one of my strongest. And it helped me to even to bounce into my career where I'm helping others with their communication and going forward. So don't be surprised that you have an area that isn't your strongest may become your strongest as time goes on in leadership. And leadership will touch everything in your life, speaking, working with people, all of those things. So I encourage people to really step into this leadership, and I'm so pleased with the attendance. Thank you, and back to you, Stephen.
Thank you so much, Mona. It's you really handled that well. I know 20 minutes can seem like a long time. When you're giving a speech at Toastmasters, 5 minutes can seem like a long time. I think you pointed out, though, that there's a lot of variety to leadership styles. And I wonder if I could just do a quick survey by show of hands, how many people their strongest leadership style was reflection. How many their strongest leadership style was influence. How many strongest leadership style was action?
Yes.
I see Jessica. How many strongest was structure? Yeah, pretty good. We have a pretty good variety of styles, don't we? What I'm going to suggest now, we did have one guest join us late. I'm not supposed to mention her. Vicki had texted me not to mention her, but Mandy, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi everyone. My name is Mandy. I am visiting from the Twin River Club.
Great, and great to have you along. I'm going to suggest before we jump to the next exercise that we just take a short, I'm not sure how we're doing for time here. Let's say we take a 4-minute break. Everybody can either talk to one another on chat or raise some questions or do whatever you need to do just to clear your head, and we'll come back with to go. We'll carry on. So I'll just do a quick review of the leader match, leader gap that precedes exercise B. So the leader match principle, and I should probably share screen again, is that a leader's knowledge and skills match the situation or team needs. Leader gap is when a leader's skills do not match the situation or team needs. So when you do the two assessments today, one is the assessment of your style of leadership. The other is the assessment of the leadership needs of your organization. Now they could be, depending on how you approached it, it could be the Toastmaster group you're with, could be your business group you're with. When I did my assessment, I did it against the last business I'd worked for. And it was interesting. There was a gap, which was really where my strong point was, which was on the reflection side. It was a larger business. They were well structured, and you know, plan A preceded plan B, and everything was stepped and well organized that way. And yet I enjoyed the job because I think I was able to bring my strength to play, and I didn't have to worry about the structure and the action. The goals were always well defined. That's my kind of approach to it. Even though there was a gap, I thought that I managed to enjoy the work because my gap really worked to my benefit in the role I had. So if you've done the two assessments, if you've done your personal assessment, if you've done the gap for the organization you're working with, this next discussion will be an opportunity to explain how those gaps either get filled or don't get filled, or how you fill them. I've introduced them once before, and with good humor, Jay accepted all the things I said about him. He's a great person. He often has, when we do these Zoom sessions, has some music playing in the background when we have breaks, and it's a real nice change from the mosaic of faces. So without further ado, I know Vicky has all the timing requirements as specified by Jay. I'm going to turn it over to Jay to moderate the discussion on leader match and leader gap. Jay.
Thank you, Stephen. Only you and I know that we have exchanged the introduction of Mona and myself. That's okay. In the corporate world, being a good leader means hiring talented people and then getting out of their way. That's what we call it successful leadership. But in Toastmasters, just as Shelley mentioned, the way we call it effective leadership is much more than that. It is rather the ability to adjust. And that's what we did with COVID. How fast we could adjust with this COVID attack with our Zoom meeting. So perfectly, seamlessly, we moved from face-to-face to Zoom with Igniters, thanks to the leadership team. We have heard from Mona, what's a personal leadership strength? Or I would call it as traits. That's what you filled up in the exercise A. So basically, the spider web, what you saw, is only a reflection of your own strength. But what I am going to explain is exercise B, which is some sort of a prediction or what the organization, group, or the team wants That's what you plotted in the second plot, whatever you call it, star, radar, spider web. But that plot actually signifies your style, expectation from the organization as a leadership. So let me quickly share the screen and show you how I did in my assessment. Do you see that? Okay, let me go. What's going on? Oh no. Okay. So I'm sorry about that. Let's move on to the next. This was my plot. Do you see the way what I did? So this is my, you see whatever the color, the brown color is the team needs. So whatever Mona discussed was the leadership style. That's the characteristics of a leadership, your own leadership. That's the blue. So in my case, I was more inclined towards how do I influence? How do I support, motivate the team members? But what the team wants is towards the reflection. How do you think? How do you plan? How do you visualize the goals? So essentially, the gap is here. Do you see between the influence and the reflection? Now, to elaborate this, I have a team, a great team. So I'm going to introduce a panel. We have two panelists, amazing panelists, dynamic presidents, one outgoing, another incoming. Hey, wait a second. Something strikes you that it is mimicry of some country's presidents? No, we are talking about scandal-free, real, authentic presidents of club, in the Igniters Club. So going to the first one, let me introduce the lady, our outgoing president, who is amazing, who has actually brought the club to the president distinguished level, and her energy and enthusiasm is really motivating every one of us. And the second panelist is no less. He is another gem. He has a lot of
company, and what exactly does that I'm supposed to do as well.
I'm just freezing here. Something is happening here. Am I hearing something? Can everyone mute, please? Thank you. So our second panelist is Marvin, who is again has got several district leadership portfolios and also our technical giant. So two are going to help me out in answering questions and share their thoughts. And that will really elaborate this particular team requirements. Remember that Mona discussed about personal strength. Now we are going for team strength, and then we are going to match the spider's web. And let's feel that leadership with the panelists. So I have a question to them, which is prearranged. So I'm going to read that question. So they're going to answer. I'm going to pick one from them. No choice. I'm going to pick one. But the question is common to both. And you will answer in 3 minutes. Vicky will be the timer. Describe one specific issue you faced in meeting your team needs. It could be corporate, your career, or in Toastmasters. Remember the whole exercise of reflection, influence, action, and the, what is it, the last one. Can anyone tell me? Reflection, influence, action, and?
Structure.
There you go. How do you employ structure? Now, all these four are combined in vision, training, motivation, and policies. And you are going to explain to me how this specific issue has been handled in your own way. Please, let me open the floor to Ksenia, our outgoing president. Please welcome Ksenia. Answer in 3 minutes, please.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you. As I mentioned in our discussion with Mona, my two strongest points are reflection and structure. And one of my weaker points is action. And this is where I'm going to focus. My answer is on the action portion or lack thereof, when decisions need to be made quickly or I need to act quickly or in a timely manner. And I will give two specific examples. One example where this can become an issue is that, for example, I can wait too long to make a decision, or even sometimes it's sending out emails or working on a project, and that can then put stress on my teammates or the counterparts that I'm working with. Maybe I start a project and I find, oh, I need some information from somebody. And so now, last minute, I'm asking for this information and I'm really putting stress on them. I'm really relying on their kindness and that they be able to drop everything to help me so that the deadline can be met. So this is the one way that this manifests in particularly in my, I would say, my professional life. In Toastmasters, I have a number of times talked with my members about my writing emails. One of the perfect examples is our of the year awards, where I've just sent this email out to the members asking for a turnaround or in a week, whereas really I could have sent this email probably a week earlier and then the members would have had more time. So in this way, not only am I under stress, but I'm also putting my teammates under stress, needing this information back. I will admit that this is very much a work in progress for me. I have noticed in the Toastmaster world a little bit of a progress this year, because as a Toastmaster, I do need to communicate frequently with my members in the professional world. Very much work in progress. So I see how I can involve and force myself really at this point to form that habit, even if I don't feel like it and I like to work on some sort of a deadline and I feel like I work better, but really for the benefit of the team, it's not always best. Back to you, Jay.
Thank you. May I ask the same question to our incoming leader, Marvin?
Thank you, Jay. Yes, I'm the opposite. I'm more influence action person. I like to influence people and take action, and then also I like to influence people to take action as well. And I find if I support people and influence them to take action, it lessens the gap, decreases the gap in the process. I find doing that, I can rely on other people to provide the structure or other resources to provide the structure that I would need, and focus on my influence and action strength. I do tend to notice that sometimes after I take action, I then reflect on the structure or review the structure at the later point. So that's one that I do notice. But I find a good team and work with the team and encouraging the team members to take action and influence them to know their roles and get trained in their roles, then they can be better leaders themselves. And then I can reflect more and sit back more at the same time. Like Jay says, get to leave them alone and let them do their work, and that's what I tend to do. I influence them, instruct and support them to do their job, and I can leave them alone and take my action at the same time. And all that helps me decrease that gap and make a match for our team to succeed. I was president a few years ago, and I'll be president again next year. And I find it working with the executives, I can find that talent that's needed and encourage them to take on different roles and different tasks and find their strengths or talents where needed. Because not everybody can do a big job, but I find everybody can do do good at smaller tasks, and the many tasks that get done makes the club as a whole a good picture.
Thank you. Thank you, Marvin. Well, it's quite interesting. I never knew, I never saw the reports or the charts, radar charts. In spite of that, luckily I could pick up two different approaches to the problem. So because your Ksenia's strength is from reflection and structure. Yeah, that is how do you employ structure and how do you think. Whereas Marvin has gone to how do you guide and how do you influence. But the specific problem, but both have addressed, is about the flexibility. I mean, what I'm combining both. When you say flexible in responses and flexible in taking different tasks, yes, that's a key component for leadership to handle. But my question to you, now both of you, is have you ever thought to change the codes and to meet when you actually, Stephen, when we discussed the actually course of action on the team alignment, he came up with a very good point. If you do not align or if you do not wish to align, better to replace the leader. Awesome quote. Thank you, Stephen, on that. Yes, that is too much. We don't do that here. So my question to you both will be, how do you make the members, your organization or team members, flexible? Do you have, because both have the same issues, flexible in handling tasks or flexible in prioritizing the work and responding to your emails faster? Did you consider motivation, training, coaching, or some sort of a reward or something like that? The way D42 is doing now, if you fill up the AD report fast, you will get a gift. So did you consider any incentives? So now I'm going to switch. So first, let me ask Marvin. You have only 2 minutes to answer, Marvin. 1 minute, you will get a bonus.
Thanks, Kay. Yes, motivation influences my strength, and then recognition as well. So recognize the people for their talents and their awards and for their achievements. And I like to award people as well, thank them and award them as they do their tasks. So I'll first like to motivate them. I find people can do the roles once they are trained and motivated. And once you find the right person to do that task as well. So I look for the talent first, then find that person who has talent, motivate that person, then reward that person after the task is done. And I find that works good for me. I find more leaders that way. I find I influence more leaders and get them to the point. That's how I find all my judges per se. I look for talents, motivate them, and reward them. And that's way. And as a result, I got plenty of judges to work with and plenty of leaders to work with. So
thank you.
That's who I work with.
Thank you, Marvin. Over to Ksenia now. Could you please answer the same question? How do you motivate and train or guide or coach?
Sure. Thank you, Jay. I take this question to relate to the influence portion of the model. For me, what I find that it's important to develop relationships with people first, particularly when you ask, how do you ask them to answer or emails, say, faster? So for me, it's important to have that relationship before, say, I can ask for something quickly if I need it. Not going back to my previous answer, but just if there's a deadline, simply, or something rushed that needs to be done, as opposed to, I always feel uncomfortable if I'm asking for something without really have that relationship, because I don't have that to kind of strengthen my ask, so that going forward it's kind of like a mutually beneficial relationship. But going back to Marvin's point, I do like to encourage people more and more as I've gotten older. I've realized the importance of that and how much more effective that is to recognize the hard work and the good results that people have achieved, and that in recognizing and supporting people or team members will come back to support the leader in the future.
Thank you, Ksenia. So I'm going to open the questions to the floor, but before that, let me just briefly address, briefly summarize the actual work done by both Ksenia and Marvin. So both have done homework of plotting their own strengths and what team needs, and they found the gap in the case of Ksenia here, the reflection. That means your style, which we call intellectual style, and she has got the structure, that is bureaucracy. Whereas Marvin got both in different cases. He's a bulldozer and a fix-it. Good. But in both cases, when it comes to handling the issues, they recognize that we need to address the individuals, motivate them, keep the focus on the vision, and give recognition, and support them to accomplish the goals. It's a very clear approach. And I like that way you match and you reduce the gap between what you want from the team and what do you have as a personal strength. That's what characteristics of a leader. Now I'm going to open the questions to the floor. So if there are anyone who wants to ask questions to the panelists on how do you match these gap between the two traits of your personal strength and team strength, please go ahead and shoot your questions. Let someone help me to recognize the audience because I am unable to see everyone in one screen. So is there anyone else who would like to ask a question? Please come forward.
Yes, Dermot.
Yes, Dermot. Thank you, Ksenia.
So I am not a team player. And I have been on teams. I'm probably on one now. How do you handle somebody who's like not a team player? Is that in your way of handling people?
That's a very good question. I have to say I don't see you as not being a team player. I think you've very much been a team player this whole year, and as the previous Sergeant at Arms passed on the role over to you, you took it on very well. And
I was forced into the role. I was shanghaied, I think they call it.
I would respectfully disagree on that. I think it always takes two people, and if a person is not ready to take on a role, I feel that person would not, and even if they have such a slight inkling of doing so and wanting to pursue it, then maybe just that little push just gives them that courage to do so. And you have been very encouraging to our members. In recent experience, I can't say that I've had experience of really true no team players. I remember back in school, back to school projects that were team projects where maybe not everybody's pulling the same weight. I'm not sure if I've mastered the art of how to make that more balanced. And I'm sorry, but can't at the moment come up with an example that I could really answer the question straight to the point. Maybe I'll just defer to Marvin, maybe at this point, while I collect my thoughts.
Thank you.
You've given me something to think about anyway, Ksenia. Thank you.
Yes, Marvin. Over to Marvin.
Well, yes, I agree with Ksenia that but Dermot is more of an action person. So he like to take action. I wouldn't say without thinking, but with with less thinking. How's that? So, and I don't mind that. I mean, sometimes it can be funny and it can be jokes. So that's good. So I like to look for talent, and I can see Dermot's strength and Dermot's talent and taking action whenever he can. So I like the spontaneous part of him, and the spontaneous can be good. You know, spontaneous can be good at sometimes, and there's less structure, there's less reflection, but more action and more spontaneous, and that can be good in a person. I mean, it's good to have a diversity team, and so it's nice to have one of Dermot in every on this team. Not many difference.
Thank you, Marvin. Now, because we are running out of time, so I must go and seek some input from our guests. Are there any guests who can share their, what do you call, the spider or the chart? Are there any guests who are willing to share their results? Do I see anyone here? Please help me.
I have a question though for those two leaders.
Please. Yes, Shelley.
How do you handle the balance between when you lead to a team, as in a Toastmasters group, but when do you lead on the one-to-one side? So when do you finally just sit down with people one-on-one? So how do you handle that as a leader?
So Sherry, can I clarify? Is it like when a team member may need additional support and you need to sit one-on-one, or is it kind of in a business world when leaders have their one-on-one meetings? I just want to clarify the understanding.
No problem. It is more of, even in a Toastmasters club, when do you decide as the leader that it's time for me to have a one-on-one with somebody on my team? Because usually we meet so much as groups, as executives, but when do you decide, or when do you take action when you think a one-on-one is required?
Can I answer that question, please? I just want to help the panelists, because panelists got a lot of experience, but I'm going to get a theoretical answer to Shelley, and I will leave it to the panel to come forward with a good explanation. Whenever you want to go for a one-on-one, the first and foremost one is there is something is lost, and that is vision or the goal. When someone out of those two have got some issue with the goal, yes, then you do need a one-on-one discussion to taper that off. So that could be in case of a conflict, or when you lose sight of the goal, the target. Okay, now what happens in Toastmasters, for instance, if one member continuously doing something which is not as per the rules or as per the set protocol, misses the meetings or not able to fulfill the education requirement, then you need a one-on-one to coach. That's where the mentoring process takes place. This is one answer. There is nothing, no right or wrong answer, but I'm just saying this is one of the theoretical answers. But I can certainly, Marvin and Ksenia will be able to give you the precise, specific answers. But I am really sorry, Shelley, we don't have time. I am really going in my personal structure. I am more towards the structured approach guy. So I'm not flexible at this time to leave the discussion with other panelists. So I have to cut short this one. Certainly after the meeting, we can answer the questions, particularly with the help of my esteemed colleagues. So right now I'm going to summarize wrap up the discussion, what we had on the team needs and how well we can address this. So the first and foremost tips given by my panelists would be to recognize that there is an issue and resolve it by deciding how do we appreciate the talent and the strength and the motivation and inspiration. How do you do that? By making it as a high performance group. How do you do that? That's where I'm saying that when you want to be a leader, you don't want to be a high performance leader. You want to be a leader for a high performing team. That is what we call it as HPL, leadership team. So with that, let me give back the whole discussion to Stephen, our presenter today. Stephen, over to you.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you for coordinating that discussion. There's a fairly long conclusion here that Toastmasters has provided in their guide. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to sum it up in my words. To paraphrase, there's an old saying, if you don't know where you're at, how can you plan on where you're going? And similarly for your team, if you don't know where the team is at, how can you know where the team is going? And we're through this discussion and workshop, we've been trying to encourage people to think of ways they can marry those two things together. I don't know if we've supplied everybody with answers to their questions. As Jay indicated, there'll be some free time after the meeting, whether you want to connect on chat or open discussion where we can talk about those issues. One thing I would like to do though, and we usually do at every meeting, I guess I could leave it to our Toastmaster, but to ask our guests if they have any comments, if it matched what they were looking for, or if it didn't. It doesn't have to be, I'd love it to be a total success, but if it's not, feedback is an important thing. I've never done this online before. Well, I've actually never done it in a workshop before anyways, but that's beside the point. Any feedback we get is important. I'm gonna ask, I see she popped up on the screen, Antoinette. I don't think you've mentioned anything yet. Has this met your expectations or what you were looking for?
Stephen, I really enjoyed today. I enjoyed looking through the presentation material. I enjoyed the way everybody was well involved. I had looked through the leaderships and didn't quite connect with it, but when I saw an example of how it was put together, it was like, the light came on. And so I'm going to work through that worksheet and see what I find about it. I really found the group welcoming. I enjoyed hearing everybody's opinions. It's just lovely for me to visit a different Toastmasters group and see how different clubs work. And I want to thank you for being so welcoming.
Well, thank you for coming. Casey, you had a little bit of commentary on the leadership style, but do you have any other comments?
No, I think I can echo what Antoinette had mentioned. It was pretty welcoming. It was my first Toastmasters. If it's anything like this, if the ones coming up next or anything like this, I think I would be, it's definitely something that's up my alley in terms of growth and development for myself. And yeah, thank you for having me.
Cool, yeah, I'd kind of forgotten it was your first ever Toastmasters meeting. Wow, good stuff. And I think the farthest away was Lemlin. Lemlin, did you find this meeting valuable?
Sorry. Thank you all for having me, and it was really great session. It really helped me to look for my strengths of leadership style, as well as it could be also my weaknesses, and how it can be overlap with the team, like with the my Toastmaster need, like my Toastmaster leadership need, and then how I can address my need based on my Toastmaster group strengths. So thank you for all of you guys sharing your experiences, and I have learned a lot. Thank you very much.
One more question for you, Lemlin. Where are you connecting from? Are you in Calgary?
Yes, I'm in Calgary.
Cool. Do you belong to a Toastmasters club?
I am in a Toastmaster club called High Riser Toastmaster District 42, I guess. I'm very new.
Yeah, oh, great. I'm glad you could join us. Grant, I've seen you at meetings before, but do you have any comments on the workshop?
Mr. Toastmaster presenter, I appreciated how well you were organized. It was good to have different people who spoke well, connected very well with the camera, engaged all of the people. There was preparation, obvious in the way that the meeting was structured and led. It was interesting about the discussions that were held. I appreciated the various people who could participated in their ideas. One of the ideas that has been percolating through a number of other discussions is that there is a real difference between those who lead and those who manage. And what I find in most of the characteristics of leadership discussion that we've had is about the people who lead. In my experience, most people are managers. And the difference is, as you pointed out in your presentation, leaders are people who influence others to take action, whereas managers direct people to take action. And so I appreciated the presentation. I'm glad I signed up and registered for the meeting. Thank you.
Great to have you here, Grant. Thank you for coming. Daisy, your impressions.
I'm so lucky. I checked out D42 event calendar this afternoon and found out, wow, there is a leadership training. I think I'm going to look at the workbook again because after today's session, it feels like I better learn more and memorize more so I can apply my leadership skill with more flexibility instead of stubborn doing something said, hey, this is my style. You have to follow my style. I really appreciate everyone's work. It is well organized and prepared as training session with a lot of material, and I can tell there are a lot of background work going on for this session. Thank you.
Thank you, Daisy. I sort of felt like Ksenia was speaking to me when she was talking about doing things at the last minute. Only the people behind the scenes will know how last minute some of this stuff was. Shelley, any comments from you?
Thank you for having me. What I took away is you have an excellent grasp on using Zoom. I don't know if everyone was watching chat, but I'm seeing timing reports, I'm seeing summaries, which is fantastic. The meeting was run very well. Everyone could share their screen, which can be a challenge. And the one thing that I really appreciated was anybody who shared their web or their personal leadership with the group. It can be very personal to share that with people. And I did appreciate that people were willing to share that. And now I want to go back and take the assessments myself. My only follow-up is I hope you invite me back in 6 months or something, and we could all have a meeting again on how we're doing with our leadership. It'd be interesting to hear.
Oh, yeah, and a good idea. If you're looking for somebody to team up and do the workbook with, Dermot is still looking forward to doing his. Who else have I missed here? Grace, any comments from you?
Well, I would say thank you very much to invite us. And I also, like Daisy, I found I'm glad I found that event on the 42 website last night, and I sent a request to Vicky this morning, and I'm so fortunate and thank you for Vicky for very prompt response to me with all the details information. And I can see this is very high quality club, and you guys have a lot of very well organized and good public speakers. So they're pretty good, and thank you for them to share their personal experience, and I learned a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Grace. Mandy, Vicky already got her compliments, so you don't have to give her any compliments, but do you have any comments on the meeting?
Yes, first of all, thank you for having me today. I really appreciate that I have a chance to join your meeting. I think this is the first one. And I feel the meeting is very well run and very good organization. Especially, I very enjoyed your presentation, Stephen. That's very well prepared. And another thing would be the enthusiasm as well as the atmosphere of the meeting. Everyone is very involved and very engaged in the meeting. That is very good. And I also learned a lot from the meeting today, because the centric topic is the leadership. So good pick on the topic for the meeting. And thank you very much.
Thank you for joining in. I think I've covered everybody. I know Glenn's been working in the background following the chat. Is there any comments you have, Glenn?
The chat has been very easy to follow, and Vicky has been giving us all sorts of reports and doing a wonderful job. There have been no questions come in that I have seen, and if no questions have come in, there's been an exchange in a foreign language that I'm not familiar with. Maybe we'll hear that at some point. Antoinette is asking about how to come to future meetings, and I would say just click on the same link that you joined this meeting. It's the Zoom link that we use every single time. We will be meeting again next Tuesday at 7 p.m. for our regularly scheduled program. And we would look forward to seeing you there. Back to you, Stephen.
Great, thank you, Glenn. Thanks for working in the background. Thank you, Marvin, for being the Zoom master, Jay and Mona for doing the moderator status, and it's been fun. It's been really interesting. I really thank our guests too for adding another element to the discussion. And I'm going to bow out now. I'll hang around if anybody has any questions on chat or wherever, or to see what's going on. We'll try to wrap up a summary at some point in time. And right now, I'll just thank you for your time and turn it back to Ksenia.
Thank you, Stephen.
That was going to be my first task, if we can all unmute ourselves, and thank Stephen, our moderators, Mona and Jay, all our panelists, and thank all of you for contributing to discussion, to a fantastic meeting. If we can all unmute ourselves and give ourselves a big round of applause, please.
Hey.
Don't forget our timer.
Oh, yeah. And our sergeant at arms.
And the guests.
Yes.
And the guests.
Our awesome guests.
And the guests, absolutely.
And our members. And our members.
And the members.
Our members.
Yes. Yes, there have been so many people working behind the background. Vicky, who communicated with our guests and sent out all the information and the timer for this evening. And of course, Glenn as well, monitoring the chat. So it was really a team effort to put this together, and we're all happy to hear back the feedback that it was well organized. I'm glad you enjoyed it and you were able to gain something from this session with us today. And maybe, seeing as we're already at 8:40, unless there's any announcements, we can adjourn this meeting and continue on for those that would like to stay on after the meeting.